Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Gambling Did You Know session. Today, we're going to be talking about sports betting and the house edge, kind of these two different terms that you might have heard before, but we're going to kind of describe what that means. Okay, so starting off a little bit, I think it's important to consider where gambling has come from. So, in the past, long ago, gambling's been around for actually thousands of years, but long ago, gambling was usually reserved for religious or like ceremony type functions. So it wasn't really what it is today. Over time, people gambled for different reasons, basically. Eventually it became more of a recreational activity that was played among individuals. So, kind of like even a Friday night poker night or something like that, where just a group of people are getting together and playing individual games. Now, most gambling that occurs nowadays, you still see those, Friday poker nights or things like that. But most of the time, we're talking about gambling as a business. This has really changed even in the past, couple decades. That's what we're really talking about. So, the house edge, what this means, again, you might have heard this term before. It's kind of simple. Essentially, casinos, any of these places, bingo halls, racetracks, sports books, and lottery providers, they're all in the business of making money. So that's, something to just kind of keep in mind. That's why the house edge exists. Otherwise, they shouldn't need to play with the payouts or the odds. So it's important to keep that in mind, that this is the reason why the house edge exists, is these casinos and things like that are trying to make money. So how they actually do that is by making sure that you do not have a fair or 50% chance of winning. So basically your chance is always going to be under 50%. Even if it's just 49%, over time, that casino or that sports book is going to make money. Just kind of the more people bet. And that kind of leads into the law of averages. So again, the house edge, let me just go back for 1 second, make sure this is clear. The house edge, this basically is the odds that they're playing with, or the payouts. They're giving a lower payout than they should. What that means is that the casino or the house is making more money than they're paying out over time. And again, how that works is along the lines of the law of averages. Basically, what this says is the larger the sample size, or in reference to gambling, the more times you play a game, the closer your average outcome is going to be to the actual odds of that game. So, for example, we all know that a coin has two sides. We have a heads and tails. So if I were to flip a coin a couple times, you're always going to get, those outcomes. But you could, probably, if you flip a coin 10 times, you could see, 8 or 9, potentially even 10 of those flips come up as heads or tails, right? So, I could flip it 10 times in a row, and 8 or 9 times out of those 10, I could get heads. So that can still be a fair coin. Usually with a fair coin, each side is going to be, having that equal chance. So you're generally going to get 5 and 5 if we're talking about 10 flips, or, somewhere around there, 4 and 6. But, if you just flip a coin once, obviously you're going to have a 100% chance of either getting it right or getting it wrong. You're going to have a 100% chance of getting, heads or tails. If you flip it 10 times, it's going to get a little bit closer to that 50-50. But if you flip it, 100, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, you're going to start to see that it's getting closer to half heads, half tails. So with probability and, just people gambling over time, along with the law of averages, this guarantees that the house is going to be winning over time. So that's, again, something to keep in mind as we talk about what the actual house edge is for these different games. So I have the example of roulette up here. So this is not, sports betting. But I think this kind of shows the house edge in an example a little bit better. And then we'll talk about sports betting and what we would call the house edge there as well. So this is kind of what an American roulette, table or wheel looks like. So you've got basically 18 red numbers and 18 black numbers. But you've also got these two green numbers, the 0 and 00. So basically one of the most common bets, if we're talking about roulette, there are different bets that you can do. You could bet on specific numbers, or, different things like that, but you can also, bet on red or black. So with that, if you're betting on black, you have pretty much a 50-50, same thing with red. But if you're betting on the green numbers, then you would kind of have that chance of, just a very small chance. There's going to be a higher payout there. But again, if you're betting on black or red and green comes up, you're going to lose any kind of bet that you're talking about. So just quickly looking at the odds of if you're betting on, just that red or black, your odds here are going to be 18 out of 38. Again, you've got 18 red, 18 black, so that's 36, but then you add in those two greens. So basically, if you're betting just, straight red, straight black, you're going to have this 47.37% chance of getting it right. Now, if you just kind of flip that, the casino is going to have 20 out of 38 chance of winning. So that actually comes out to 52.63% chance. So you'll notice that, the casino has a little edge there, but it doesn't look like it's maybe that significant, right? So you still have pretty good odds when we're talking about just betting straight red or black when it comes to roulette. But let's actually look at, how this breaks down a little bit. So, another thing to keep in mind is that while the casino has an edge, the house has an edge, they don't necessarily want to just take all of the players' money right away. They want you to feel like, you could win over time and things like that. They want you to keep betting money because that's going to kind of keep a person playing longer. And again, the house is going to continue to make more money off of that the longer the person plays. So, while we're talking about a, 5% difference here, that might not seem like much. It's coming down to just the number of people that are playing this, the number of bets that they're placing. The casino is going to be making a significant amount of money. So for every $1 million that's bet on roulette, basically the casino expects to make a profit of about $50,000. And again, that may not seem like much when it comes, divided by $1 million. That's not, that huge of a percentage, obviously. But again, it's just people are spending tons and tons of money on gambling. The casino is going to be making more money just by the statistics, just by the odds there. So that's kind of how it works for any kind of casino game. There's going to be a house edge there. There's going to be a percentage where, the casino is making some money or they have better odds than the player. So with sports betting, it's a little bit different because basically, it is a little bit harder. There's not necessarily that green number that can ensure that the house has better odds than the player. Instead, what they do is they charge kind of a tax or something like that in order to place the bet. This is called a juice or a vig. So, this juice, this amount that they're charging for your bet can fluctuate. So it usually is around 10% or 10 cents on every dollar that a person bets, but it can fluctuate. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But what this means is that if you want to win $10, not only do you have to win your bet, obviously, but you have to bet more than $10. You would have to bet $11 in order to get a profit of $10 if you win. And again, that's due to that juice or that vig, kind of what we're calling a house edge today. So I want to be clear, this does not mean that, you would say that the house edge is 10%. Let's actually look at how this breaks down a little bit with an example here. So we have Bob and Joe. they each bet $11 on opposite sides of a game. Again, this is kind of assuming that they're betting through a sports book. That's how we get this house edge or that juice. In total, you'll notice that they're risking $22 between the two of them. So we'll say Bob's team wins. He'll get his $11 back, but also $10 in winnings, right? So he's going to get $11 that he put in, but he's also going to get $10 of what Joe put in. That extra $1 is going to go to the house. So this is taken out, this juice or that vig is taken out basically from the loser side. So what that means is the house edge in this case would be that $1 that goes to the house divided by the $22 that they were risking in general. So we're looking at about 4.5%. So that is kind of that house edge. But again, it is important to keep in mind that this juice, whatever you want to call it, this advantage can be changed depending on the type of bet. So, whether we're talking about money line or parlays, things like that, the sports book is actually kind of changing things a little bit so that they might be getting a higher percentage there than a person might realize. So it's not always going to be that $11 in order to make $10. So again, that's how sports betting and the house edge kind of come together a little bit. It's not exactly the house edge. It's a little bit different than other casino games and things like that. But again, this is still kind of a form of the house having a better advantage, or they're making money off of the bets that people are placing. So just something to keep in mind here, I guess, that there's a thing called, beginner's luck. This doesn't, just apply to gambling, but really, if you kind of think about it in a way, your best chance of winning is going to be the first time you play, if we're talking about betting against the house, because we already talked about the law of averages. The more you play, the closer it's going to get to that disadvantage that you already have, right? So the closer it's going to get to that, house edge, they're going to be making money off the more you play. So, that kind of comes back to the more you play, again, you're going to be losing more money, and therefore your best chance of winning is going to be kind of that first time you play. So just to summarize a little bit, a couple things that we talked about today, modern gambling, what we gamble with today, not only is it in different forms than it used to be, but it's also a business now. So that's where, again, this house edge comes from. The house edge has not been around as long as gambling has been around. It's just a more recent way for these companies basically to make money. Again, the house edge means that the house is going to be making money by keeping a mathematical advantage. So whether they are playing with or changing the payouts, lowering the payouts that they have to give, or actually changing the odds of you winning the game, they'll do kind of either form of those or both to ensure that they have an advantage at any point. And finally, when betting against the house, again, it's important to remember this, that it is possible to win every once in a while, but it is basically impossible to make a profit over the long run. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today as usual. And I do want to just share a couple resources as usual as well. So if you do know anybody who is struggling with gambling, if they need help, if you yourself needs help, you can reach out to any of these resources. They will definitely connect you with other resources, or they'll get you into treatment or, prevention resources as well. So, any of these resources on the screen, they are great places to reach out to. We do have our number and email and our website as well. So you can reach out to LAHC. We would be happy to connect you with other resources or get any help that you need as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time with another Gambling Did You Know session.